I'd like to. So I want to just jump right into the conversation. I know we had a lot more that we could talk about, but this is a discussion. First, Paul and Ralph, thank you for joining today's meeting. Paul, I know we've done these in the past many times. We wanted to do this in person. Obviously, we've had to change. We hope to get back to in-person meetings as well too. But we just thought this would be a good way to include as many people as possible into the conversation. And yeah, so I don't want to be long because I know whenever we have these meetings, there's a lot of information. And since we haven't done them in a long time, I expect there's going to be even more so. And we do want to, Steph, do we have a presentation as well too that I just wanted to throw up those slides?
Yeah, I can throw it up. Hold on a second.
I appreciate it. And we wanted to, so first of all, I just want to thank you all for coming today as well too. And first, thank you to Paul Stedman and Ralph Romano from Mass DOT for presenting. Also, thanks to Dave Westerling and Cynthia Carlson from the New England Plan Group, who's going to be talking about the first mile, last mile study that they've been doing for the proposed Nashua rail line expansion. I don't think we need the presentation step. Let's just skip right into the conversation. We kept this as a meeting, really to keep a casual conversation. So please, if you have questions or just let us know you're here, put your information in the chat box, and we're going to send all this out to everybody after the conversation as well too. But I think I'm just going to leave it. Oh, but wait, before one thing though, I do want to make introductions though to Samantha Roy. She is our new marketing and membership coordinator for Middlesex 3. Samantha, hello.
Hi, everybody.
And Delaney Wilkins, who is our new Middlesex 3 intern. I'm looking around. This is my Delaney. Thank you. This is their first week at Middlesex 3. You're going to see more of them. So please, this is their first meeting. Hopefully help us make them feel welcome as well too. But with that, Paul, I don't know if you or Ralph's going to be leading the conversation, but I'll hand it over to the two of you.
Thanks, Stephanie. So we're going to kind of do a little bit of tag teaming and things like that. So Ralph, if he's able to, is going to share his screen and put up a presentation. And I think also, Stephanie, Ralph had sent a PDF of our presentation over to you. And if you'd like, you can certainly put that into the chat. So if people find it easier to follow along with looking at a PDF, happy to have them do that if that's okay.
That would be great. We will do that.
Okay. So good morning, everyone. I'm Paul Stedman, the District 4 Highway Director, and also joining me is Ralph Romano, who's our District Operations Engineer. So it's a fairly lengthy thing, so I'm going to try and do what I'm not able to normally do and be very brief and kind of go through these. And then obviously if people have questions, happy to do my best and do our best to answer them. So kind of our agenda is I wanted to give just an update on our Shared Streets and Spaces program. I thought it's, we've got some great local aid municipal programs that are available, and the Shared Streets and Spaces is one that's been, has done remarkably well over the past few years since COVID. Then we wanted to do a traditional kind of project updates, our construction updates. We'll do some general updates, and we'll do a little bit more focused update on a project that is probably of concern to a lot of folks, the Middlesex Turnpike project, Reconstruction project in Bedford and Billerica. And then a design projects update, and then, general, and then I'll go a little bit with some specifics on the Work Bridge project in Lowell, which is something that's been in the news lately, and also an important project for the region and for this group, I believe. So, Ralph, we can go to next slide, please. And you can keep going. So, as people probably remember, the Shared Streets and Spaces program was launched back in 2020, and it was really in response to COVID-19, trying to look at quick build opportunities, and a lot of it was focused on trying to bring back commerce in downtown areas, and also provide opportunities for people to be able to get out and use other modes of transportation and not be as reliant on cars. So there's an enormous range of projects and elements and types, including permanent and temporary. There's been over 33 million that's been awarded statewide and 310 grants. And I thought for this group within District 4, we've had a total of 85 grants totaling over $8.5 million. And thus far, 43 of the 62 communities in District 4 have been awarded a grant. And I'm hoping that people will continue to apply for those other 19 communities that have not yet been awarded one to take advantage of this great program. Next slide, Ralph. So right now there's 5 types of different program types, project types. There's a new one. The first one is speed management, and it's really meant to target interventions to reduce vehicle speeds. I don't know if anybody, I know Representative Chola was on the call where we had the kickoff for the strategic highway safety plan the other day. And speed management is at the forefront of a lot of discussions going on. And so the program, Shared Streets program, was modified to incorporate this type of project. And as you see, there's up to $200,000 per grant that's available. And the other ones are the more traditional ones that have been in place for the last couple of years: the bike and pedestrian infrastructure improvements to promote safe biking and walking, transit supportive, which a lot of bus priority lanes, things like that. And then the main streets, which is the one I was talking about, trying to induce commerce opportunities, reinvigorate and keep repurposed transportation areas to be able to use to support things like outdoor dining and other things like that. And then there's also a new category for equipment only, which will be used to purchase eligible equipment to support eligible project types. Ralph, next slide. So again, this program, much like the other local programs that the Baker-Polito administration have put to the forefront, excuse me, really looking to rely and allow communities to kind of, take the ball in their own hands and kind of shape their transportation network. Everybody is eligible. Every community is eligible as our transit authorities. The application process is very, very user-friendly. The new grant round was opened on January 10th, and it currently is going to be continued through March 1st. So I would encourage any local officials that are participating today to, if they haven't submitted another application, to consider it. It's simple online form. There's a limit this round. This is round 4, limit of 1 word for each municipality, but the equipment only projects, those can be multiple. And there's certainly a great amount of details that are available on the website, and that website link is shown down at the bottom of the slide. If you just Google shared streets and spaces, it'll pop up on the mass.gov website. Next slide, Ralph. Just some real quick kind of highlights of a couple of different projects. Town of Burlington was awarded about $270,000 to do some new sidewalk work on Terrell Hall Ave. Ralph will just show a couple of next slides. Just a couple of, the pictures worth 1,000 words kind of thing, the picture on the left, the work in progress, and then literally the sidewalk as it was poured that day, just providing a new sidewalk connection to promote some safe mode of transportation for pedestrians. Next slide, Ralph. Another one that I thought was a really cool use of the program was in Tingsboro, about $135,000, and is to create an ADA accessible park in the downtown area. A lot of different connections, and it looks, as you're going to see in the next picture, in the next photos on the slide, a great project. So Ralph, next picture, next slide. You see on the left some of the work that was as it was underway, and then on the right, just a finished project. And I know there's some folks from Tingsboro on the call today, and I just want to commend them as well as Burlington. Both of those projects came out wonderful and are going to be well received, I'm sure, and well used in the communities. Next slide, Ralph. Just a couple of the different types of projects that some of the communities did. I won't really go through them, but it just kind of shows the wide breadth of project types that some of these communities have used. Many of the communities here that are part of the Middlesex 3 Coalition are featured here in this slide, and as well as some other ones, just showing all the different types of unique type of project types that a community sought to choose and were given an award for. Next one, Ralph. So we'll shift into the construction project updates. I think, Ralph, next slide, I'm going to turn it over to you, I believe, and then I'll join you in a minute. So I'm going to turn it over to Ralph.
Okay, great. So just give you a quick update on Middlesex Turnpike Phase 3. As you know, we had Phase 1 and 2, which completed a lot of the work there. Phase 3 started back in 2017. So right now it's, basically improving that roadway, and there's 5 intersections that are included also that are receiving updates, signalization, etc. So adding turning lanes, 2 travel lanes, as I said, signalizing those intersections. Project also involves the median islands, additional landscaping. It includes sidewalks and bike lanes, and we've got some wetland work and wetland replication areas. The project also included a lot of utility work and utility relocations, which caused a couple of delays during the project. Right now we're in stage 2B, which is roadway widening. And also we're finishing up on the retaining walls in the bridge with the culvert. We're about 62% done, and we should be done next September. Just some progress photos. So this was the retaining wall as it was being constructed. And I took this picture last week after its completion. And this is just an area where we've got we're still waiting to do the final course paving on this, but you can see the new sidewalk and new guardrail. And this is one of the intersections that we'll be working on. So project's well along, moving pretty good.
Yeah, and let me just add to that is that, as Ralph said, there was utility delays. I don't want to say delays. There was just an enormous amount of complex utility work, as Ralph had alluded to. And, the Verizon work alone was kind of budgeted into the construction schedule over a year of work. So there was a lot of, I think many folks probably that in this meeting kind of witnessed what may have been perceived as a lack of activity out there, particularly during the 2020 construction season. And, it wasn't really related to our contractors. It was more just the sequencing of the work and trying to do those complex utility cutovers that were painstakingly had to be done, customer by customer, with a lot of advanced work by Verizon to work with those customers to make sure that those cutovers could be done in a time frame in a manner that didn't have any significant impact on their business needs. So it's a complex project. I think at this point we also had a late utility kind of hurdle with the Ultragen X project that was proposed very late in the game that required some major electrical utility upgrades by Eversource. So we worked with Eversource and our contractor last year to kind of figure out not only a schedule where they could get in there, but literally a path where they could place that utility. And we were successful at being able to work with them. So at this point, the contract the work is more or less solely back in our contractor's hands. So we're quite confident that, the schedule that we provided, as far as showing completion next year, there's still a whole host of work to be done, but we're in a good position now to continue the work without any kind of third-party interference or issues that we need to contend with. Just some general updates that I thought may be of interest to the group. The Acton Concord Bruce Freeman Rail Trail Phase 2B, which involves a major new bridge connection across Route 2, just west of the Concord Rotary, that many people have probably seen. That project is well on its way to being complete, and we expect to be fully completed by the end of this construction season, and hope to be having a ribbon cutting for that project for sure. Next slide, Ralph. Just not a minor, but interstate preservation kind of pavement preservation project that affects primarily Chelmsford and on I-495. That work is substantially completed. We just need to put in final pavement markings next spring, and then the work will shift down into really the Medford, Somerville, Stoneham area. It's spot locations where we'll be doing pavement improvements. There's also one section of barrier wall we'll be installing in the Medford area to try and reduce some noise issues that are impacting one of the adjacent neighborhoods. Next slide, Ralph. I also wanted to, although it's a little bit further away, I always like to kind of showcase our I don't want to call it our signature project that's going on in the district each time, but this is certainly a major project, the Haverhill I-495 over the Merrimack River Bridge replacement. This project, as many of you probably have witnessed, has really gone on with little to no traffic impacts. And we kind of learned, this is a design build procurement. We took a lot of what we learned on the Whittier Bridge reconstruction project up on I-95 in Amesbury, Salisbury, Newburyport, and put it to use on this project. So what we were able to do is use a traffic management plan that we allowed us to maintain essentially 3 lanes of the existing 3 lanes in each direction throughout the construction, with just having overnight lane restrictions and occasional weekend restrictions. But right now, the southbound traffic has been shifted onto the new bridge. So both new bridges are constructed, and the traffic is now using both of those bridges. And we're going to be continuing on with the demolition of the existing southbound bridge, the remainder of it, as well as doing the median work and paving work this coming spring. And we're on schedule to meet the existing contract completion date which is in June of 2022. Next slide, Ralph, will just show some progress photos. This just kind of is a view looking to the south. The bridge on your right is the new southbound bridge. And on the left is actually the new northbound bridge. And because the bridges were constructed with to be wide enough for a future 4th lane if it's needed in each direction, as well as there will be an auxiliary lane that connects the on-ramp from the Ward Hill connector area to the off-ramp at Route 110. The northbound bridge was actually wide enough when it was constructed to be able to support 3 lanes of traffic in each direction. So that was the kind of the traffic management gem that we were able to utilize to really make this project go very smoothly. Next slide, Ralph. This is just kind of the same view, but just pulled back a little bit. It shows the median crossover that was previously used to carry the southbound traffic onto the northbound bridge. As you can see on the right, the southbound traffic is in its final configuration. On the left, the northbound traffic is still in the prior phase location, and the contractor is using that median area to do all of the removal of the existing median, do the median reconstruction, as well as do the removal of the trestle that was used on the river itself to support a lot of the work activities. Next slide, Rob. And this just kind of just shows some of the ongoing work underground. The wood you actually see on the right side, bottom right side, that's the actual work trestle. It was a really cool, unique feature that the contractor employed. There's actually a trestle that goes across the entire river. And it certainly facilitated the work. It was one of the reasons why they were selected for the job from a technical standpoint, because it was just seen as being able to do the work very efficiently, but also very safely from working down below as opposed to up top as much. And just to show you the what you see in that granite facing, it's like would be termed like a pier protection that's actually being constructed above water, and those cables that you see kind of running down on the pier columns, once that is constructed to a point, it'll actually be lowered into place. And then there'll be another phase of that to be constructed on top to do the final pier protection in the water. So just kind of a cool, innovative way of construction technique of being able to do the work in the dry and then lower it down into the water. Next slide, Rob. Just a few updates on some projects, some more projects. The Lowell Bridge replacement, VFW Highway over Beaver Brook. That has been a painful project, as many of you who've traveled that area may know, but we have finally kind of come to terms with it. That project encountered an enormous amount of contaminated soils and hazmat and asbestos that was not anticipated, and that resulted in some significant delays going through the regulatory process and approval process with DEP and EPA to get those approvals for how we were going to handle that material in place. The bridge is fully constructed. They're working right now on or will be working on the final paving and median construction, and that project should be completed by late spring of this year. Next slide, Rob. Another major project in the city of Lowell is, which is a reconstruction of 5 bridges formerly owned by the ENAL, who was the former operator of the canal system there. This was a federal Tiger grant that the city received, but MassDOT is administrating the construction contract of the 5 bridges. 4 of the work on 4 of them is fully complete. 2 of them were opened just in the past 3 to 4 months. And then we have 1 bridge, which is probably the most critical one, Central Street over the Lower Pawtucket Canal, that was originally going to be a superstructure rehabilitation. And when we got out there and kind of peeled off the deck and looked at the superstructure, there was significantly more deterioration than was anticipated. And so that has gone through a redesign process that the redesign plans were just approved this past week, and they're with our contractor now for pricing. So that is the next and last piece of that puzzle. It's a little bit complicated by their sunset horizons on the Tiger funding. So we are kind of in a race to try and make sure that we can spend that Tiger funding within the sunset. But that project is now moving forward. We think, again, we've cleared the hurdles, and now it's just getting materials fabricating and being able to get back out to work out there. Next slide, Ralph. Lowell Connector, just a bridge deck replacement over Industrial Ave. Again, that project, both the bridge work is substantially complete, and we just have final paving and pavement markings this spring. And right now, that project is basically a full beneficial use. So if you were to drive out there, you would have the full use of the bridge, and it would appear that it's fully constructed. We just need to do one more lift of final paving. Next slide, Ralph. Small intersection job in Tewksbury-Lowell, at the Tewksbury-Lowell line on Andover Street. That project also has some significant utility work associated with it. It began in November, but we've actually been able to work some mini phases around the utilities in place. So we're hoping that although that project contract completion date is in 2024, we're hoping to be ahead of that. Next project, Rob. Next, yep. Just again, state of good repair, highway lighting at the I-93-495 interchange replacement. That project will be starting next month, and it's going to take about 1.5 construction, 1 to 2 construction periods, but it's mostly just replacing the entire system in kind and starting from scratch. Next project. This is a resurfacing project on Tewksbury. I believe it goes from Old Boston Road to Colonial Drive. We had a pre-construction conference this week, so we'll be starting in the spring, and we'll be done next September. Next one. This is a project also in Tewksbury. This is substantially complete, again, at full beneficial use down in the southern end of Tewksbury at Route 38 at Salem Road and South Street. So we'll just be doing some minor punch list in the spring and more or less on schedule with that project. This is just an interesting one I always like to talk about. I know it caused a lot of issues, mostly primarily down in the Cape region there was a lot of business concerns. But this is just the conversion of the former sequential exit numbering to the milepost-based numbering, which was a requirement of the Federal Highway Administration. We were one of the last states to actually implement it, but that work, District 4 took the lead on. There were two statewide contracts. District 4 took the lead on this one, which covered the eastern half of the state. And that work was completed last July, and I believe folks have pretty much settled into the new system. I find it still a little confusing when I hear, an exit number, and I'm sure most people do too. I was kind of more of a sequential person, but I'm getting to learn the mile numbers as the days go on. But next one, Ralph. Just a fairly major intersection and roadway reconstruction project in Chelmsford. Again, there's been a lot of work. We worked great with the town on this project, and the next one, which I'm going to talk about, with implementing some local detours that facilitated the project. So thank you to the folks at Chelmsford for working with us on this and the next project. But that project should be wrapping up in the middle of the year this year. Similar was the other one I mentioned. This is a little bit smaller intersection project, but also had a culvert replacement with a small corrugated metal pipe going to a much larger concrete box culvert. Again, this necessitated some detours, which the community was great to work with. This one actually, we are going to be well ahead of schedule and expect to be completed this year. Whereas you can see the contract completion date was spring of 2023. Next project, Ralph. Just wanted to mention this one, Woburn. This is a project that again has been strangled by utility delays that are in large part related to COVID, some COVID-19 impacts where the utilities weren't able to do some private service work. We are hoping that all the utility relocations are going to be completed over the winter, and that we're going to be able to move forward with the remaining roadway reconstruction this year. One thing that is looming that we've heard about is the MWRA may be looking at some sort of a project that may travel through this area. So we're kind of watching that or listening about that with some caution and a little concern. But next one, Ralph. So just wanted to shift gears to some design project updates. I'll go fairly quickly through these. One in specific, next one. I just wanted to touch on the Rourke Bridge. Many of you have been either involved or following this project. We have a temporary bridge, as you know, that's been out there for, since the mid 80s. I like to say all bridges are temporary. So, but this is clearly a temporary bridge, and we're interested in moving this forward. So MassDOT actually has a project that is under development, and it's our design team is being led by HNTB. They're a great firm to work with. We have a great working relation with them, and they've got a whole host of specialized sub-consultants that are working on various elements of the project. Next slide, Rob. Just a real quick, the locus, sorry, it's kind of hard to see, but it kind of goes project location, Rourke Bridge, but it does involve section of Wood Street, as well as Pawtucket Boulevard and Middlesex Street on the on either side. And again, just a little bit more of a Google aerial view, kind of showing again the overall limits of the project. Next slide. Just a real quick topic on why we're doing it. It's a bridge replacement project, but it's really, the existing bridge is functionally obsolete. It's posted, so there's issues for emergency vehicle access. It's, one lane each direction with limited shoulders. So, and it's a congested bridge. So for emergency vehicle access, that can be challenging. And also looking at improving traffic operations at the intersections on either side. As I said, this is kind of looking at the bridge from an overview, an elevation, and this is, kind of an enclosed sidewalk, which probably does not feel too comforting to anybody who's walking across it. You feel a little bit kind of trapped in there. As I said, many things I touched upon, the shoulders impact emergency vehicle access. There's certainly no, we have capacity issues on the intersections on either side. And from a maintenance perspective, you may have seen in the news, we had an issue where plow picked up, caught on one of the edges of the deck plates and peeled it up, and it wasn't noticed, and a car unfortunately struck that and had, suffered some significant damage to the vehicle. So it's, continual maintenance out there. And then now, with a bridge that's, approximately 40 years old, finding replacement parts starts to become difficult. Next slide, Rob. Again, just looking at the need for safety operations, trying to improve bike and ped accommodations. Keep going, Rob. Design scope is really looking at the bridge alignments, developing the bridge type and the overall roadway cross section, and then doing 25% design and bridge sketch plans. They're permitting, and we're still trying to determine whether this will go traditional design bid build or whether it will be a design build procurement. I think design build is right now the preferred approach, but that has not yet fully been determined. Next slide. A lot of work's already been completed by the consultant that you can see here. I won't go through it, but it's all towards building up to and getting ready for the environmental permitting, as well as the actual design elements for the bridge and the roadways. Just a traffic study area that they're looking at. It's fairly extensive throughout a lot of different intersections within the proximity of the bridge, as well as outlying areas within Lowell. Just kind of shows some of the highway safety issues up there. You can see any of the red clusters are top 200 intersection locations, high crash locations. And then the other ones are either high crash locations, pedestrian crash clusters, and things like that. So you can see there's a lot of different issues affecting this area that this project can help promote and improve. So many of you know that there's 3 alternative alignments that are being looked at. The one in blue is the existing alignment, just kind of a replacement in kind. The one in the middle seeks to look and align somewhere in the area where the new Market Basket roadway driveway would be. And then the third alignment kind of peels off and intersects opposite Old Ferry Road. Just a little bit of information on the different geometries. Alternative 3 is the longest because of the curvature and also has a number of piers. There's also a 30-inch water main that needs to get across this bridge regardless of the alignment. Next one. The alignment actually affects the schedule. If you go with the existing alignment, it's multi-stage construction, so it's you could add a year. Alignment 2 gets you into a likely an environmental variance with DEP, which is going to add 2 years. Alignment 3 is the shortest. It's single stage construction. It doesn't have the significant environmental impacts of alternative 2. And then there's different evaluation criteria that are all being kind of boiled into or baked into the the cake, so to speak, to kind of land on a preferred alignment. I don't think it's officially been announced, but alternative 3 is trending as where the preferred alternative will be. Next slide, Rob. And I would just back up one, Ralph, and just before I leave the work, there is a working group that's set up for that, that a number of stakeholders are involved with, and there will be a meeting is scheduled for next week, February 2nd. So that project continues to move forward. I know we are also looking at potential maintenance actions and things like that, just to ensure that that bridge remains in a safe condition leading up to and throughout the duration of the construction of the replacement when that does occur. And then just real quickly, this is just an overview of the projects that are currently on the 2022 to 2026 state transportation improvement program, the STIP, for many of the communities that are along the Route 3 corridor or adjacent to it. So just pavement preservation and act, and these are all in alphabetical order. So some safety improvements at both up at Kelly's Corner in Acton and on Route 2 at Piper and Taylor Road. A major bridge replacement project. It's, if you see over here, $170 million. It affects 5 or 6 bridges on I-95, on 495 in Andover. So that'll be a major project. There is also a Haverhill Part 2, which will address the second set of major Merrimack River bridge crossings at the Haverhill-Methuen line. That will be coming in the near future. And just continuing on, bike path extension, always great projects, as well as trying to incorporate those types of same improvements. The next project, Bill Ricca, incorporating complete streets approach in both of these projects in Bill Ricca to try and promote additional modes of transportation and make them safe for bike and walking. Next slide, Rob. Another Yankee Doodle path, which was mentioned, I think, by Marliese at the very beginning of our meeting. Some pavement preservation projects, Route 3, as well as on 95. Similar on Chelmsford, at some Route 110 pavement preservation. Same thing on Concord, Lexington, and Lincoln. That one's really kind of cool because we're working closely with the Minuteman Park in the Park Service, National Park Service, because of that project goes right through the heart of their facility, and they're gearing up for the celebration that is coming in 2026. So we've had a lot of work kind of coordinating with them. Similar type of thing on Lowell Route 110, some pedestrian improvements in Lowell. And then last slide, I believe, Ralph, is again, some reconstruction work on VF Highway, intersection improvements in Lowell and Tewksbury, which are down in the area for the 495 interchange into the north. Some bridge replacements in Westford, rehabilitation of Boston Road, which is complete streets approach from the center of Westford out towards 495. A signal reconstruction at Bedford Road and South Bedford Road, which has been a high crash location on Route 3 in Woburn. And then finally some transformative improvements within down Woburn to look at the common area to try and see if that can be reconfigured to be a little bit safer for different modes of travel and more efficient. So I think that's the end of it. I apologize for kind of breezing through that, and also apologize for taking so long, but we wanted to kind of give a lot of content. And Stephanie, I don't know if you want us to take questions. I know Dave has got a presentation, and I want to be sensitive to time and make sure that you have enough time for the other components of the event.
No, I appreciate that. That's perfect. And I think we're 5 minutes ahead of schedule, so we probably have time for one question if somebody has a question just before we make the transition. But first, to say you guys are busy is probably an understatement. There's a lot of information that you guys have, so thank you both for presenting. And if it's okay with you, we'll include this presentation along with your contact information in our follow-up email to all the attendees. because I'm sure a lot of it is the devil's in the details with so many of these projects.
Yeah, no, absolutely, Stephanie. If people have questions after, we can, you certainly have our contact info. We can follow up separately if we don't have time today. Happy to try and answer any questions. But as you said, there is a lot of work. I do want to stress too, again, like I started off with the complete streets, there's a significant amount of municipal grant programs that MassDOT has available for municipalities, whether it be complete streets. Municipal Small Bridge is relaunching on February 1st for applications that'll run through April 1st. There's a municipal pavement program, and the local bottlenecks program. So there's a whole host of local aid programs that are available. And I encourage any community official that's participating today just to look into those. If you have questions, we can get you in touch with the right program contacts and try and see if you can take advantage of some funding that's available.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. And if anyone has any burning questions that they want to raise their hand before I hand it over to David. And David, I know, I'm just looking to see if anyone Marley's.
Just unmuting myself. Quick question about the Yankee Doodle bike path. It still is listed as 25% design, but the town has already paid about 900,000 just to get to the 75% design. 1.5 million since 2013. So how close are we now? What is the wait now for the 75% design?
I apologize, Marlies, but I don't have specific details
Okay.
on where the design is, but I can certainly,
Email.
certainly get you in touch with the right person that can have that conversation. And, I think Rob or Kevin could, or any of the other consultants on the call could probably say is, the bulk of the funding for a design project is really focused on the 25% design and getting to a point where you've locked in your alignment and vertical and horizontal alignment. I know it's a little bit different on a bike path and things like that, but that's where you spend the bulk of your design funds, is getting past the 25%. Once you get into 75 and 100, it goes a little bit quicker and it's a little less, less hours involved, so less costly. But I'll certainly get someone back in touch with you, Marley, so we can have that discussion along with the issue on Rangeway.
Okay, and then if I may, one small one, the Middlesex Turnpike crossing over the Shashin River, there used to be boat access, and that seems to have disappeared. I've mentioned it in the past, but then it was like, yep, this already designed 25 years ago, and there's nothing to be done about it.
Are you're talking on the Middlesex Turnpike, the one that's under construction now?
Yeah, where it crosses the Shashin.
Okay, no, I know that was a change where we ended up changing the project design from from a culvert to an actual bridge. But as far as any kind of boat access and things like that, I'll look into that. That was a design that was kind of focused by the two communities, kind of took the lead on the design. I know, Rob, I don't know if you have any information on that or not. I know VHB is the community's consultant, but again, a great question, Marlies, and we can certainly get some info for you.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, great. So we can follow up with that. Thank you. And Melissa, why don't you join the conversation, then we're going to hand it over to David.
Thanks, Paul, for the updates. Can you hear me okay?
Can.
Okay. I just wanted to kind of also let this group know in relation to transportation. Some of you may already know this, but Burlington now sits on the MPO table, which is, previously was occupied by Woburn, and it's in representation for the North Suburban Planning Council. But, I feel like, in terms of representing Middlesex 3 in this area, it's all kind of overlaps. But Paul, I guess I had a question with the MassDOT grants. Curious about how some of these, at least shared streets, I felt like was open more to encourage more creative uses. And we're thrilled about the sidewalk, but I'm wondering how you could nudge communities to kind of almost, sidewalks should be paid for like kind of through some of their own funding and allow for some of the creative funding from the state, to do things that are a little more unique or piloting. And I think that would be important, like an incentive if you can create some priority in that sense.
No, and that's a great point, Melissa. And I will certainly, Cassandra Garcon is the administrator that oversees all of the local grant programs. So I can certainly share that comment with her. I think in large part, some of the pedestrian kind of improvements or the rationale for having those types of improvements included in the grants was to, number one, during COVID to provide opportunities for people to get out and be able to be in an outdoor environment and still, be able to be safe, if you will, but also to get to where they wanted to go. And obviously, it's one of the things we've been trying to do for a number of years, and a couple of administrations, is promote multimodal transportation options and safe options. So, but I hear what you're saying. Is a sidewalk it's kind of like the more the mundane of the ones where some of the other ones have maybe some more wow factor, but they are scored. Each of the applications are scored. I don't know if they're weighted differently depending on the type, but I can certainly find out and also share the comment with Cassandra.
Thanks. And then the last question, just with regard to the TIP projects, we have had the 3A Cambridge Street, Bedford on there for a while. And as I'm learning the ropes kind of from the MPO perspective, how do I understand how the state is looking at that project and what the obstacles are for advancing it? If it's on something on our end that I can better understand and help move it along. And I think this goes for anyone who has maybe a TIP project, just so that communication's there. We understand what steps and hurdles need to be moved so that the state can also kind of feel comfortable funding it.
Yeah, so I know we have actually I term it more of a maintenance resurfacing project for, a section that we're trying to do. And we're also trying to incorporate some complete streets elements as they're feasible. It's kind of like it's a fine line where we're trying to do pavement preservation to keep the road from falling apart, but at the same time take advantage of some opportunities to be able to put in sidewalk connections or to be able to put in narrower lanes to provide wider shoulder areas that'll better accommodate bikes. But where we start to run into issues is when we start to look at, well, if we look at the speeds and we look at the volumes and we look at bike use or bike needs, the guidance starts to tell us we want to have almost like a separated facility or a side path, things like that. And it turns from what starts as a maintenance project into a capital project that we don't have the funding for in that particular bucket. So, when we start talking about capital projects, which I know Burlington is interested in doing, we've had some of those conversations already. And I think it's more about trying to get the district, particularly on a state highway segment, which this is get the district and the town kind of in sync on what the town's vision is for that roadway, right? Because we don't want to necessarily come in and make that decision for the community. We want to collaborate with the community. We want to work with the community because we want that vision to be reflective of what the town is what the project is actually constructed as. So I think it just comes down to we got to continue to communicate, continue to collaborate on what that project is, and then scope it and get it in the queue.
Thanks, Paul. I won't keep anyone more on this, but I will follow up with you on that. Thanks.
Sure.
Thanks.
Sure, no problem.
Wonderful. Thanks again. And Paul, Ralph, thanks for your time and all the updates and all the work that you're doing. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you for having us.
Appreciate it. Thank you. And now I want to turn the conversation over to David, because Dave, I know you have a number of people from the New England Plan Group here as well too. So I'm going to let you introduce them as well. And do you want me to be in charge of the presentation, or do you have that? Oh, I'm sorry, gotta unmute it. Oh, if you could unmute, that would be. David, could you yeah, there you go. I'm sorry, David, I'm gonna hand it over to you. I couldn't hear you earlier.
Okay,
Perfect.
so some folks from the New England Plan Group are on the call here. Scott Sudeikis is on our advisory council. And I think that I see Cindy Carlson from Merrimack Civil Engineering is on the call. And is Dennis Coffey on the call?
I believe so.
Yeah, Dennis? All right. He may have had to step off for a
No,
minute.
he's here. I see him down below.
Okay, all right. So if you want to put the
I'm gonna share
the
my.
little slide program up. Yeah, so I'll give just a few slides. We only have five or six slides, so it's not going to be a long presentation. But the New England plan started, if you want to go to the next slide, there's a little background. In 2019, we had our first board meeting. 2020, we established a nonprofit corporation with the Commonwealth, and we applied for 501c3. And then in 2021, in the midst of COVID, we registered as a public charity, and we did receive a determination from the IRS to be a nonprofit corporation. I think this is our website. It's newenglandplan.org. So there's more background information on the website about us. And if you've got a pencil and paper, or you want to jot this down, or we can put it in the notes, there's two organizations that are sort of our sister organizations. One is the RPA, the Regional Plan Association, in the tri-state area of New York, Connecticut, and New Jersey. And it's just rpa.org. And the other organization that we've been following and has been helping us get started is the called Spur, SPUR.org. And they are a similar organization in the Bay Area of California. And just briefly, there were three cities, primarily starting in the 1950s when the regional planning effort started nationally. So there are three cities in the Bay Area: San Francisco and Oakland and San Jose. And they didn't talk to one another. They were totally independent. And they had this idea, why don't we get together? And they formed this organization called Spur. And transportation was a focus of it, along with a lot of other things. And they said, we really need to connect our cities with a rapid transit system called BART. And they developed into a national powerhouse. They came up with this idea of Silicon Valley. What's Silicon Valley? It's really the three cities started working together. And so the New England Plan is sort of focused on that type of cooperation among the 6 states in New England. And the president of the RPA in New York City came up and gave a talk to a financial thing I was involved with on infrastructure. And at the end of his talk, he said, why isn't there something like this in New England? And we did a straw poll, and everyone in the room, bankers and lawyers and political types, everyone raised their hand and said, yeah, we need to do something like this. So that's how we started in 2019. So take a look at our website and take a look at those other two organizations. Can you continue on to the next slide? So we started we're looking at projects that we might be able to help with. And one of them was the rail connection between Worcester and Providence, Rhode Island, through Woonsocket, which is a passenger rail connection. And we work with Tim Murray a little bit in the Greater Worcester Chamber of Commerce. And then the other one was this one. This one is the extension of the Lowell line up into New Hampshire, and called the Capital Corridor Project. And we got on the phone with Stephanie, and she thought this was a good idea, and and agreed to host this meeting. And so we started looking at these border towns and the South Nashua Rail, we call it South Nashua State Line Rail Station, and said, well, what if we started working with this population about first mile, last mile system, transportation system. And one of the first things might be well, go to the next slide, which is the population. We started to do a population kind of an evaluation. Who would be using this station? And so we came up with, here's the population of, I guess it's 5 towns and 1 city in New Hampshire, and 7 towns and 1 city in Massachusetts that might contribute passengers on a fairly regular basis. And so we took the population, and Cynthia did this. If you want to comment, let me know. So this is Cynthia's work. We have a New England-wide GIS system that we're using. We've developed. Sydney Picard, who is now at Tufts graduate school, helped with this. And so we took the population, and we said, of all the population, some populations might be 100%, and others have other options. Like there's a downtown station in Nashua, and there's a downtown station in Lowell. And so we had those multipliers there you see in that second column. And then we said, what if only 5 or 10% of the total available population used the station? We came up with these numbers of 8,000 in New Hampshire and 12,000. It's very crude, and it's, it needs refinement for sure. But I thought rather than have a blank screen here, we would put something up, and we said, well, that's 20,000 people who might use this station. And then what most people do is have some kind of a survey. So if you go to the next slide, Stephanie, this is a draft citizen survey of typical, we took this from a Meriden, Connecticut. They had a rail station extending from New Haven up to Hartford, and they were trying to determine who would use this station and where would they go and what would they use it for. So that's what this little survey, one-page survey is about. And it might be a good place to start to develop some ideas as to who would be using this first mile, last mile system. And so that's where we are. We're just starting. And why are we picking this with this location is because our focus is really on cross-boundary connections. So, currently the relationships between New Hampshire and Massachusetts are not the best. We do a lot of things independently of each other. And in this case, if we're going to be extending this rail line, we think that there should be some citizen support. And the place to start would be right at the boundary. If we can do something together in these towns, we think we'd have a population that would be really supporting this project in both states. Because I think eventually, one of Eric's questions is there going to be some cooperation? Has anything been done along these lines? And we don't see anything that has been done to date. But we're thinking that by starting with this little issue of the first mile, last mile, we can at least get some input from the towns and from the cities, and we could start. So is this a good place for us to start? Is it worth doing now? So back right up into that. Should we wait until the rail line is built to do something like this? Which normally that's how you would do it. You would wait till, the line is completed or pretty much started anyway. And it is really that first question, is it worth doing now? So we're open to discussion here, because any ideas. Now, one of the questions that has come up, if there is a South Nashua station, it may require an interchange off of Route 3, which is located in Massachusetts, which involves Mass DOT. And this is probably not on the agenda anywhere. But maybe if we had some citizen support for doing this, it would move forward. So that's where we are with this. It's sort of a pioneering effort. Generally, these things aren't done a lot in New England. I know that there's been some cooperation between Connecticut and Massachusetts on what they call the knowledge corridor that goes up to Connecticut River Valley. And there is a train now that's a lot, they've had some cooperation. And I know if Dennis is on the line, he knows a little bit about the extension of the MBTA into Rhode Island. I don't know, Dennis, do you want to say something?
Well, thanks, Dave, and thanks everybody for listening in and joining this conversation today. And we're looking forward to, as Doc says, some feedback. MBTA has a long history of working in cooperation with Rhode Island through the Pilgrim Partnership, and that's been a very effective means of accessing both federal and state funds at both with both states. And they have a very vibrant service that works in concert with Amtrak's Northeast Corridor. So I think what the New England Plan Group is trying to explore here is how might a northern portion of multi-state cooperation evolve. We do have the example of the Downeaster coming out of Maine. Again, an Amtrak service, supported by the state of Maine, that comes right down into Boston, comes through New Hampshire and into Massachusetts. So there are some examples, but what we're looking for today is some feedback about this so-called capital corridor into New Hampshire, and is there really a demand for it? Are there really people that would make use of this kind of a resource if the investments were made? Thank you.
Thanks, Dennis, and thanks, David. I think that this is 10 minutes that we have to discuss this. So obviously there's not enough time to really get into depth, and we will talk more about it in the future as well too. And I know that we are over our time as well. So I understand as if people have to jump off, I understand that. But while I have people, I know Andrew Jennings has a question as well too. And I see Jay over from Nashua here, which I'd love to hear your point of view, because I know we don't have Nashua join the conversation as often as we should with this. Please, if you need to jump off, we understand, but at this point, I'd like to hear from Andrew as far as his feedback as well.
Good morning. I think the role that we need to find somebody to play is to do the interagency and interstate planning. I have seen this on a barrier on many projects. We don't need a first last mile study. What we need is actually some discussion between the state agencies, even between the RTAs and the MBTA, to do our planning, because we have no effective way of doing it now. The cases that were mentioned, the Knowledge Corridor, the Downeaster, those have all been basically one state taking the lead on a project and pulling it to fruition. And New England desperately needs a way to fund and empower multi-state, multi-agency planning.
Thank you, Andrew. I completely agree. And Jay, do you want to jump in as well too before?
Yeah, let me just give make a couple of points. I certainly agree, and I will say that we are in support of any initiative that could foster interstate cooperation for this project, because realistically, there's no way that it happens without that. So, but just to make sure everybody is aware of the project and where it is, what's being proposed is an extension of MBTA commuter rail service from Lowell to Manchester. There would be a South Nashua stop near downtown Nashua, a stop near the Manchester Airport, or a Manchester Airport stop, and a downtown Manchester stop with a layover facility that would also be located in Manchester. That's part of the, I guess, pitch, if you will, for the project. Is currently there isn't a layover facility for this line. So hopefully this is an inducement or an incentive to move forward with it. What's proposed is 16 round trips a day all the way to Manchester. So pretty significant. The South Nashua stop, that is the preferred location for the South Nashua stop right now, is right on the Tingsboro line. It's at the Pheasant Lane Mall. So the parking for the facility, as it's currently being contemplated, would actually be in Tingsboro. So, kind of overall, that's the project view. Needless to say, obviously, we've got to figure out, how is this mutually beneficial for both states to pursue. Needless to say, that's critical. Where the project is right now is it is in the project development phase. So for those who are familiar with that term, that is the necessary prerequisite to apply for federal funding. So New Hampshire Department of Transportation has contracted with AECOM, who I know does a lot of work with MBTA. And they are handling this phase of the project. They are doing the environmental assessment. They're doing and taking the engineering up to a 30% design point. And, and they're doing the financial analysis. So that's all happening right now. Brief overview. The project that started a year ago, it's a 3-year process, and we expect this to wrap up early 2023. So we're really midstream. A lot of questions are not answered. I know DOT, New Hampshire DOT is communicating with MassDOT and MBTA. Where those are, I have no clue in terms of negotiations, but so it is moving forward. I think with first mile, last mile, I don't think it's too early to start to be thinking about it and planning for it, because realistically, for this to work, you've got a station site, we've got to connect to major employers, we've got to connect to park and ride facilities, et cetera, or this just doesn't work. It isn't viable and it won't build the support that we need. So fully supportive of whatever we could do to move this forward and make sure that we're integrating it into our local transit systems. And I mean transit very, very broadly when I say that. So hopefully I wasn't spoke too long.
No, that's great. And I think the advantage that we have is we've got a great team in place. I see people from NEMCOG here, LRTA, Tingsboro, and Middlesex 3. I mean, and all these groups, I think we'd all would like to be part of this conversation as we move forward, and it's going to be a long conversation.
Could I just let Scott say something about that business side of things? Because that was one of his concerns on employee or business development as part of the project, was be part of this survey. Scott?
Yeah, I mean, the survey we had up on the screen, I think, is a good starting point. A lot of times when you start a service, you don't have, people want to see data, right? Before they're going to make an investment. So it could help, as Jay was saying, to kind of like build support. And I think, yeah, the businesses would be an integral part of that. The idea of this is not necessarily just getting people in and out of Boston, but it's also, there's stops throughout the region. And I think that businesses could play a role in partnership. I'm now working with the National Rural Transit Assistance Program, but my most recent role was actually with a TMA, a Transportation Management Association, that I mentioned at the beginning for those who are here. And that was like around the Acton Concord area, and we did a lot of the same type of stuff. And I think that model could be replicated along this corridor. I know you guys have a lot more businesses, I would say, a bit large businesses, but which is a great thing. But when the Fitchburg line was kind of upgraded, which was a major project, that we wanted to kind of connect people to the train without having to drive there necessarily. So over the years, I was doing that for about 6 years, and we slowly put into place new routes, and we worked with LRTA and NEMCOG and people with the Metro West partnership, 495 Metro West partnership, and just kind of did a lot of like surveying and seeing like, would you use this, but also like when a little further down the line you want to get a little more specific probably and start asking, when would you use this? Like what are you going to be, typical commuting hours? Or are you going to be off hours? Are you third shift? Like, what are the needs? So that's, I think, a model that we would want to replicate along any potential extension of this line, getting those feeder services in place so that people can get to and from the train, without necessarily having a car or any of that. And also getting people to and from work, because congestion is always an issue. And that's why they widened Route 3, right? But seems like
it's certainly something, we've worked with Transaction before, and they've been great with surveys as well too. And I think stopping in Tingsboro would be fabulous. I see Hanscom on this call as well too, and I know it's a concern for them as well, getting people from the north down there. So there's a lot of factors. You're absolutely right. So I think we could probably continue the conversation for another hour, but I do have a feeling that people probably have other things that they need to do as well too. So we will continue the conversation, but I guess I do want to stop right now and just with a thank you to everybody for attending, for participating. Paul, Ralph, David, thank you for presenting, and we'll just continue the conversation. There's a lot going on.
Thank you.
Wonderful. And enjoy the weather while it's not snowing right now, and stay off the road Saturday, I guess, right? Good,
Yeah.
good. Thank you, everybody. Have a great day.
Take care. Thank you.
Bye, guys. Appreciate it.
Bye-bye.